Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Robinson and I am your boss babe queen. This is another episode of RORO Speaks, and if you don't know, RORO Speaks is where we delve into topics that are relevant, are real, topics that you can relate to, and whether I have guests sometimes or it's just me myself, we just delve into it. But this is called RORO Speaks, and today's topic is setting boundaries. You may find that you may not have thought about these things before, but then you might listen and think, actually, yeah, that makes sense. So we're gonna jump into it. If you're new here, do subscribe and follow my second channel as well. This is my makeup and fashion channel. Follow that as well. If I sound a bit funny, I've just done my Invisaligns. I've started this journey, so I'm still getting used to speaking with Invisaligns in, but we're gonna get it done. All right, so let's just jump into it. Now, what are boundaries, and what do I mean by setting boundaries? Now, boundary in layman terms is a barrier. It is usually like a parameter where you put in something that either restricts something from going out or prevents something from coming in. Now, in terms of where I want to take this conversation today, it's not boundary in terms of like a physical thing that you put in place to like keep physical stuff out. It is more of a behavioral change that I think we need to address when it comes to just in our everyday life, whether it be a personal life, professional life, and so forth. So in terms of that sense, a boundary is a restriction or a certain level of expectation that you put in place for your life regardless of who comes along. When you put that in place, it prevents certain things from happening, as well as allows people to understand where they can give and take where you are concerned. So what they will get away with, what they won't get away with, and just where they stand when it comes to you. Have you been in a position where someone came to give you advice that, one, was none of their business, two, is solely up to you what you decide to do, and three, like they gave it in a way that's not constructive criticism, but it's like they're telling you what to do? Now, if you answered yes, that is probably because boundaries were being crossed. It was not their place to advise you, and you're not like in a relationship where they should feel the need to do that. More than likely, one, you put that boundary in place but they don't know about it, or two, a boundary was never in place anyway, so they're taking our liberties and they just feel like, yeah, I can tell you about this. In the instance where you've never really been hard on anyone, there's some people who, I don't even want to use the word nice, I want to use the word are not confrontational. And even that is not even the best word to use, because then that would make it seem as if you set boundaries, you're confrontational. But hear me out. There's some people who are confrontation adverse. They will not risk any form of confrontation at all. Like, it makes them uncomfortable. They do not want to do it. These people tend to be yes mans. They say yes to everything. They accept everything. And even if they're not pleased, they're not going to stand up and say something, because, again, it might just cause confrontation, or it might put them in a situation where they have to, speak up and speak out, and that's not their their normal or their usual stance. Now, some people have this misconception that people who are introverts are yes men. No, that is incorrect. You can be an introvert and still know how to stand up for yourself and still set boundaries. All right, you don't have to be an extrovert to set boundaries. So understand this: you setting boundary is not a negative thing. You setting boundary is not confrontational. Remember, we all have our individual lives to live, right? That is one. And in this thing called life, your experience is yours and yours alone. Yes, there's nothing new under the sun. So somebody somewhere would have gone through something similar, but it's not the same as yours. Their experience, their similarities, it is very bespoke to them, not you. Now, understand this: people are there that care about you, and when they care about you, people will come and try to give you advice, especially if they think, I can help you in this or whatever. But understand that not everyone should be able to just come in and tell you what to do and you run with it. Not everyone should even have people to you like that, where they are able to just come and tell you what to do or give you advice and stuff like that, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't please everyone. And if you listen to everyone, you will not please yourself. Everyone has a different interpretation of something, and everyone thinks their opinion and their experience makes them an expert on a topic that might not be necessarily true, especially not in your instance. So let me give you an example. Say you're in a new position. In this position, doing your day-to-day task, and someone realizes, that you are pretty good at what you do, so they're giving you additional tasks. One, you have to have a certain level of discernment, because you need to understand whether they're giving you these tasks for a reason, or if they're just handing over their work to you so that they don't have anything to do. This is now a professional example for you to get boundaries. And sometimes it can be hard because some of these people are in higher positions than you. So in that instance, it's a matter of discernment, but also speaking out. Because sometimes people actually see that you're doing well and they actually want to test how far they can push you, in terms of just give you a lot of work and they're doing all the groundwork and they're doing nothing and they're benefiting. But there are others, on the other hand, that sometimes want to just test how well you deal with things, or how well you're able to deal with things, because you may be a candidate not in a position that they're thinking, hold on, one day she could handle this, but before I put her there, before I pitch this to her, I need to test that she'll be able to perform. And as a metrics for that, they might give you something to see how well you handle it. All right, so that's why I say it's very personal to you. Discernment and consideration and know-how comes into play when you're dealing and understanding it and trying to navigate through this and setting boundaries and stuff, because you could unintentionally restrict yourself from an opportunity because you were so hard and set back. You'll be like, no, I'm not doing it, you do it, and stuff like that. But on the other hand, you also do not want to be taken advantage of. So again, because it's so personal to you, asking someone for advice on this might be detrimental, and here's why. That person that you ask for advice may be coming from an experience where persons took advantage of them. And if a person is coming from that experience, their first advice to you will be negative. It will be, don't let anyone take disadvantage of you, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. They won't even stop to think or consider that you're doing so well that this might be an opportunity for you. And the person who is giving you this advice may not even mean to harm you. You know what I'm saying? They have gone through their own experience, and because of what their experience had taught them, they may be misled in thinking that they know everything about everything or about that particular topic. But the fact is, you may be in a different situation. Your managers may not have the same attitude as that person's. The persons who are trying to understand how good you are may not have the same strategies as that person who's giving you advice. So then now that person gives you advice and tell you, don't do anything you shouldn't do, just go there and do your work and don't do anything, not knowing that extra task that you got was to see how well you hold up in a situation like this, and then to plunge you further into a higher level within your career. You understand? So that is an example of how sometimes taking advice from different people might be to your own detriment. Now, when it comes to setting boundaries, as I say, you can set boundaries in your personal life as well as your professional life. In your professional life, depending on where you work, it's more often than not very easy to set boundaries. You should be going to work to get your work done. And yes, you're friendly to your colleagues, and yes, you're civil, and yes, you can have a conversation that does not entail whatever you do as you work. But at the same time, it is much easier to have your colleagues understand that they're colleagues. Even before you set boundaries with others, you yourself need to set boundaries within yourself. Do not be a people pleaser. If you're a people pleaser, then you're going to accept everything and everything because you're trying to please everyone. You need to understand your standards and what you will not lower it against. And this comes in every form of relationship, professional, personal, everything. What is it that you stand for? Because if you stand for nothing, then you cannot set boundaries because you will fall for everything. Understanding your own self first is the first step in this. Because once you understand yourself, you know what you accept, what you tolerate, and what you won't tolerate. And because you know this, then you can implement that in your professional life. When you go to work, these are your colleagues, right? You're not gossiping with them. They're not friends. understand this. You can form friends with your colleagues. You can. Because sometimes you go to work and some of the same colleagues that they turn out to be some of the best mates you have. My friend D, if you guys have been following me, I met D at work. Had it not been for my first job in the UK, I would have not known D. And right now we've both left that job and we are friends. Like, she is my closest friend in the UK now. You see what I mean? But you have to kind of see people out first. You don't just go in and take the same approach to everyone. You allow people to prove to you that they're good, that they, that you guys are friends. But at large, your colleagues are generally your colleagues. They're not personal mates. You don't go and tell your secrets to until they become friends. By doing that, you've already set a boundary. You operate on a professional level when you're in work. So they won't, don't get me wrong. There are people who, even when you set your boundaries, will still cross that boundary. We'll get to that later. But for the most part, when you set a boundary or when you set up your own standards, when you behave in a manner that is professional, that's clean, more than likely, more than often as well, people will tend to stick to that and not divert because you haven't allowed them the latitude to just be free willy-nilly when it comes around you. There are some people that, yes, you might set up your boundaries and they still, for some reason, bright enough to come to you and do whatever. There's no one correct way to deal with people like that. There are multiple scenarios and multiple options that could take. So again, that you will need to figure out your scenario. Do you need to speak to, a manager to get that person to stop doing this? Or do you need to speak to that person first of all? And if that person persists, what do you do then? Do you need to speak to your manager? This is in a professional sense now. Do you need to speak to your manager or whatnot, right? Now, in a personal sense, this can get a bit more technical. Because whereas professionally, your colleagues, you're going to work and you see them, and more often than not, if your colleagues don't speak to you, it's not really a big deal. You see them daily, yes, but they don't really affect your personal life like that, because once you've clocked out of work, you're good. However, your personal life is a bit more technical, because these are people who you see regularly, who do have an impact on your personal life, and it can be awkward if something goes amiss, and you have to see them and you get to navigate uncharted waters of this awkwardness. But sometimes awkward is good. I think a lot of times our natural position is to try to stay away from awkward situations as much as possible, but sometimes a little awkwardness is good. Don't allow people to get too familiar or too used to you, because that's when they start feeling comfortable. And when people start feeling comfortable, they take liberties. They will comment on things that has nothing to do with them. They want to instruct you or direct you or to tell you something that you need to stop doing or you need to start doing when it has nothing to do with them, and they're not in a position to do that. Why? Because they start feeling comfortable with you. And sometimes we are to be blamed, because sometimes we don't set our own boundaries. Sometimes we allow these people, giving them so much liberty that they feel like, oh, I can say anything or I can do anything. No. Let's start setting boundaries. Let's start ensuring that people understand that I am an adult. Hello? You're not my mother. You're not my parent. And even though I am 1, respectful, 2, very friendly with you, 3, may ask for your opinion sometime, I am still at liberty to either take your opinion or not take it at all. I may ask for it just to get a feel, but it doesn't mean that, 1, I will take it, and 2, that you should now feel free to comment on every single thing. I didn't ask you, I didn't call you, so don't do that. And then what I find is you limit their access to you. Because as I said, when people start getting very acquainted with you and very familiar with you, that's when they start taking liberties and feeling so comfortable that they want to tell you what to do, what not to do, and comment on things that they don't even understand. So, what do you do then? Reduce access. You used to be able to see certain things, now you can't see nothing at all. Now you can only see what I tell you and what I want you to see. I used to maybe tell you certain things just because I confided in you and I felt like, I could do that with you. But then when I realized that now all of a sudden, everything you feel like you need to comment on, I stopped telling you stuff then. I no longer explain to you anything. No. I'm not giving you any ammunition to shoot me with because now you don't know anything. Once people start getting comfortable with you, that's when I feel like they start taking liberties. And it is down to you to ensure that your peace, your happy place, your mind is sound and you are good. Not everyone will realize when they should not cross a boundary. Not everyone respects that you are an adult, and sometimes they feel so entitled because you've allowed them into your space, into your safe space, and now they're taking liberties. Understand that setting boundaries is not a bad thing. If you want to have a life where you feel like you are doing what you want to do, set boundaries. And I know it's difficult. You can set boundaries with parents, with adults, with in-laws, with friends, with partners, in everything. Set boundaries because people will literally just take liberties. Limit access. When people are not used to you, they won't do certain things as when they become as used to you. How do people become so used to you and get acquainted with you? It's continuous interactions. So reduce that. Yeah, step back for a bit. Let them start to get to know you again. Remove access, so that's one bit where you limit interaction, but also limit what they can see about you or what they know about you. That's by either you limiting what you say to them, limiting what you share, and limiting what they're able to see. Put on filters, man. If you have these people on socials, come on, you know how to navigate social media. Limit whatever they're able to see. If it's your stories, limit that. Let them, unclick them from seeing your stories. Unclick them from seeing. You can limit people without them even knowing that you've limited access to you. That is you setting boundaries for your own peace and quiet. Do that. If it's a case where people are talking to you about something, sometimes out of respect, you don't really say nothing back. Sometimes you will answer. But I think people can read your body language to know, okay, yeah, I should have maybe not mentioned that. That you use with discretion. You decide what slides and what doesn't. If it's something that's not that much big of a deal, I'll let it slide because sometimes people just need to talk and feel like they have a say. You give them that. Say it one time, cool. Now if you say it multiple times, then you come back to me again. This is now where you actually say, I'd rather you not speak to me about this again. It is none of your business, and you're not in a position where I need to listen to you. I am an adult, and I can do what I want. And if you don't agree with it, don't look. You can say that. But be respectful, be kind, because sometimes these people feel that they're trying to help you, or they think that they're trying to help you. Sometimes it's not really helping you, because they themselves don't even know what they're on about. But because they feel like they're trying to do something to help you, that's why I say be respectful, because they genuinely feel like they're trying to help you. But even if they're not, don't be disrespectful. Sometimes people just tune off though. And if you tune off, then you set them accordingly. That was all I had to say. And I hope you enjoyed this mini session of RORO Speaks. And I'll see you in the next episode.